Welcome back to another day in the Elajas era. I'm your host of the most Taylor Elajas. You doing good? Whatever, you're already doing good though. Whatever, because today we're back at Tasty Talks, and I'm joined by.
I'm Yesenia Ramdas, owner and chef of Ham Caribbean Black Cuisine.
Ham. Okay.
Yes.
So here at Tasty Talks, we pull up on y'all at y'all restaurants and establishments, and we get down and dirty. We find out the backstory. We have you provide some advice to other restaurateurs. I think that's very important. And ultimately get the lore as to why this place goes ham. You know what I'm saying? So, I definitely did some digging and diving myself. I know some of the different meanings of ham, but why don't you give people a little glimpse as to why healthy as a mother has so many different meanings?
Yeah, well, you just told them. Ham stands for healthy as a mother, and when I started the concept, I essentially wanted a name that was going to really be a conversation starter, that was going to hit on New York slang, that was really going to speak to the culture. And I don't know when was like that moment where I was like healthy as a mother, but it kind of just happened. And I thought, obviously, ham, you know what ham stands for in the streets. So when you say like, I'm about to go ham hard as a mother bleep, it's like you're going the extra mile. You're going to go crazy doing something. So in this journey for me, I was going crazy, looking at healthy alternatives to things that I grew up eating. And that's how it kind of came about.
Yeah. And in a Dominican household, I know y'all really enjoy that pork and y'all love that meat. You know what I'm saying? So to go from having those experiences to plant-based, did your body have a shock, or like what was that real experience like?
Honestly, no. Like, I was 17 years old when I stopped eating meat, and it was like cold turkey. I didn't plan it. I read a book. I was like, I don't want to eat meat, and it kind of just stopped. Did I feel anything? No. It's been 18 years almost. Don't calculate my age, but I do feel great, and honestly, I would never look back. But that is the reason why I opened up the restaurant, because I stopped eating meat, not because I didn't like it. I loved pernil and steak and all of that. But I wanted to still take this deep dive into eating cleaner without losing the essence of my culture, where I came from, how I grew up. And that's how ham kind of came about.
Okay. And I did recall hearing that you read a book and then your life changed. Do you remember the name of that book?
Skinny Bitch.
Oh, okay.
By Rory Friedman. I was 17 years old. I walked into Barnes & Noble my senior year.
Yeah.
And the book was just, like when they're highlighting a book. So I walked in and it was dead center. Obviously the title captured my 17-year-old brain. Yeah. And I read it, and the rest is history. It was just like, it planted the seed, but just enough for me to like go ham. Like, I went down a rabbit hole on not just food, what we put on our bodies, what we put on our bodies, like everything.
Yeah. And part of that deep dive was you getting into YouTube and making content, which I think is even different than other restaurateurs, where you was able to take your personal story and turn it into content. So how do you feel like that made an impact in your journey, where you were able to turn your content into a brick and mortar?
Yeah, totally unintended. Like, I never sat down and said like, I want to start doing YouTube and then eventually lead to a restaurant. It kind of just happened. And what I mean by that is, I've always been searching for like a vehicle of some sort to be able to share this knowledge that I had in my head. Everything that I've learned by reading books or documentaries, I kept sharing with my friends and family, and I was so excited and pumped up, and everyone was like, shut up. You're crazy. What are you talking about? You're going to die, right? Like, you need protein, right? My mom is like, oh no, you're going to get so skinny. And I dealt with a lot of that. So I was motivated to share with people, and not just share, but educate, because I really felt like there was this big gap on the education on what it meant to eat with intention and not just for pleasure. I eat for pleasure too, but like, there has to be that balance of like, that pleasure could kill you long term. And I don't think that we think about that. And so I started doing YouTube videos because it's free to start a YouTube channel. Yeah. And I did that, and I started cooking at home, just like with my I used to literally put my phone with like tape like this, and it would like record down.
And they got magnets for that.
Yeah, now, now we're talking. But back in the day, I had to kind of do what I could with what I had. And I'm the type of person that when I go on YouTube looking at recipes, I fast forward to the recipe. Like, I don't want to hear the talking.
Like, I don't care who you are for real.
Like, just show me
what
the
did you
recipe.
make? Show me how to make it right now, please.
That's it. So that's what I started doing. I started just making recipes, just no talking, just my hands, getting straight to the point. And I was like, I don't have time for editing. I'm like, this is hard work. Shout out to all my content creators because people think it's easy. It's a lot of work, and I had a full-time job. This was like just me wanting to share with the world. So then I started doing, so I started with YouTube videos. I started writing blogs. And my blogs are still on my website till this day, camnyc.com. And I kept them up because my blogs were entitled like Shame and Aspartame, the influence of the white coat and how we, trust doctors blindlessly without really asking questions, or One Nation under high fructose corn syrup, right? So I was just talking on like, it was a variety. It wasn't just food. It was just like wellness in general. And I didn't feel like I was getting the traction that I wanted. And so I kind of also let that go. I was pregnant with my third child when the pandemic hit, and I was home like the rest of us. And I started posting on my Instagram everything that I was cooking at home. And I have 3 babies now who are plant-based. And I unknowingly started doing something that was going to be this today. People were asking me, oh my God, how do you cook this? How do you get kids to eat this way? Oh my God, that looks dope. I want to try that. My husband one day goes, why don't you just do a pop-up and give people what they want? And I was like, I don't know about all that. But because I was home doing nothing, I signed up for a local market when the pandemic started subsided, and I sold out. And it was the first time I saw complete strangers having my food and like in love. And that was my light bulb moment that like people outside of my home like my food. Like my kids and my husband have to eat my food. The people liked it. And that was the beginning. 3 weeks later, I got laid off from my job. And the rest was history. I had to make a decision whether I go back to work where I was really good at and get a job immediately, or do something for myself for once. And I started doing pop-ups like crazy, and it led to a brick and mortar.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of dispelling information, right? I think there's a lot of people that, whether they be chefs or people that grew up with their parents owning restaurants, or they just like to eat food and say, you know what, I think I should open a restaurant. So being that you started in the pop-up and then were able to make that transition, I feel there's a lot of different routes in which you can take if you want to go in the food space. I wouldn't say that someone should jump to restaurant, right? So what do you think is the benefits of doing it the way that you did, where you had pop-ups, grew an audience, and then you were, I'm sure, able to translate those people to your brick and mortar?
That's a great question. And I often talk about this because I think the first and biggest benefit is that because I never worked in a restaurant or came from the restaurant space, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So it was like, there was like a naiveness to it where like, oh, I got this, right? And pop-ups, I thought was the hard work because pop-ups are so, oh God, the work is just so physically invasive, right? Like the labor is like physical work. And I thought pop-ups were hard. And I was like, okay, well, this was like my grooming and my training to the brick and mortar, but the brick and mortar kicked my behind so bad. It's still kicking it right now. And I think the benefit again was just the not knowing, and then in the moment being like, oh man, what did I get myself into? But also being in the thick of it. So like, that's it. Either you ride this or...
You know what I'm saying? Go big or go home.
Yeah. And then I think on the other hand, I would say like, building a brand is so important. Had I opened up this restaurant without doing those pop-ups, I remember having like 3,000 followers because I took my personal page and converted it into my business page because I grew my following on there. I remember having like 3,000 followers and being focused on the numbers, like, oh, I want to grow my following to 10K by the summer. That doesn't happen like that. And well, it didn't for me. It happens to some people, but not for me. And I remember just taking my focus away from that and just focusing on pop-ups and food and connections. And I kid you not, I went to like 50,000 followers, and like a year and a half, and it happened so fast because I was focused on connecting with people. I was at my pop-ups, not in the back cooking. I would cook at my at home or at the commercial kitchen, and then go to the pop-up. But I would be at the front talking to people like, "Hey, I'm the chef. Nice to meet you." I would give out business cards. Yeah, and just talk about the brand.
Yeah.
And that is what really helped me. If I would have opened up this restaurant without having that audience to support me, I would have probably failed already. I've had moments where I've almost failed. Even now, 2 years and a half in, there's been weeks where I'm like, damn, like if this trend continues, we might have to close. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make payroll, because something like payroll or your rent can take you out just like that.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have a community and that support system. Yeah.
No, very important. Very important. And you mentioned a commercial kitchen, and I want to get your advice about that as well, because you also were working in ghost kitchens.
Yes.
So ghost kitchen, restaurant, which one do you feel like you actually gain more of a profit from?
Definitely a brick and mortar, like a restaurant. The ghost kitchen, I think, was naturally the next part of the evolution. And again, unknowingly, I did that too, because in my head, I was like, I've never worked in a restaurant. Let me learn. Like, I want to learn health department. I want to learn how to do takeout and work with third-party platforms like Uber Eats and DoorDash. And so the commercial kitchen, my rent there was like $8K a month. Yeah. And I was not bringing in anything. So that in turn forced me to really push on pop-ups, because I was making nice money at pop-ups. And that was the only way I was able to pay that rent. But there was days at the kitchen where I would sit and just waiting for a ticket to print.
Yeah.
And on top of that, those third-party platforms are taking a percentage of your sales. So I wasn't making jack squat. As a matter of fact, most people weren't. And it was really hard. So if you do have the option, I would say a ghost kitchen would only be really savvy if you already have maybe like a main brick and mortar and you're using the ghost kitchen to just like expand your brand. So like if you have a Starbucks or like a big chain, but for a small business, from my experience, I can only speak to that. I would say it was really, really hard. And I'm really thankful I survived it, but not everyone did.
Yeah. I think all these are super important, because at least people need to know the various options. Because I think people go straight to restaurant.
Yeah, and I do have to say this. Although the commercial kitchen wasn't necessarily the best experience for me, I learned so much from it. I learned so much. Like, had I gone from pop-up to this, I can't imagine how much worse it could have been, because I learned so much and it still wasn't enough for what this was going to bring to the table.
Yeah.
So
everything's part of the journey, part of the process. You know what I'm saying? And what is now a part of your process and an accolade of your journey is the proclamation of
yes.
Yeah. You know, giving back to the community has done you good. So tell the people, I know you have a system where they can donate $15 and then you'll double the meals. You still doing that?
Yes, that's really old. And I love that you bring that up though, because these things still exist on my website, because it's like the foundation of my story. Giving back is a really big part of my brand and what I do.
Yeah.
And so what he's talking about is, if you donated $15 for a person in need, I doubled it. And that it's still there. If it comes through, I'm going to double it.
Hey, go ahead, donate that 15. We trying to help.
Yeah.
You had a great meal you was providing them with.
Yeah.
It was a slider.
Yeah.
And
I would still there's some shelters around here, and one of the things that is a project for me for this year is I really would like to have a community fridge outside, so that when there's food left over, but food doesn't go to waste here. Like, I can put everything on the line on that. Like, there's no food being thrown in the garbage unless it's spoiled. Outside of that, like, I use my team, I use my customers, and I'm using people to like share and distribute, because there's so much people hungry in the world for food to be going in the garbage.
Yeah.
And we're a sustainable restaurant, and I try to stay true to that as much as I possibly could.
Yeah. You ever heard of an app called Too Good To Go?
I do. Yeah. I've actually connected with them a ton of times.
Okay. Yeah.
But I actually don't have enough to give them. Like I really don't have much waste.
People coming in, they buy their food.
Yeah.
Sorry
Yeah.
But so also part of your journey, and you speak very highly of your husband and being married to a Trinidadian man.
Yes.
So I'm also Trinidadian myself, right? And I feel like at times we get slack, right? So give a glimpse to the people of what it's like being married to a Trinidadian man and what that process was like dating him up to the point of marriage.
Oh, I gotta be careful, y'all, because he's Trini.
Hey, be honest though. It's okay. I don't take no credit.
So, first of all, I have to say this. As a first-generation Dominican woman, when I met my husband, I had no idea where Trinidad and Tobago was on the map. Like ignorance, right? To like geographically, like where islands were.
Yeah.
And so it was a big culture shock to me to learn about the culture. But it was also like so exciting to meet someone where their family ate mostly vegetarian. Right? When you think about like, well, you eat roti with pumpkin, bhaji, right? That's all vegetarian.
Trinidadians don't eat vegan.
Yeah. They don't eat
vegetarian and everything is grease, fish.
Yes. But it was so much easier than my culture because we're eating a lot of meat, right? Although Trinidadians are eating a lot of what you just mentioned, it was still more vegetarian friendly than my culture. So like eating chana and aloo or like a aloo pie. These are things that were already vegetarian, if not even vegan at some capacity without them even knowing it. So I was excited about that. And then most importantly, I think it's just beautiful when two people come together of two different cultures and you're both learning of each other. And for me, I was in love with the food side of the culture. And that's why when I opened up the restaurant, I was already learning how to make roti and burn curry and like all of that. People come here till this day and they're like, so who's back there making the roti? And you know, it's some Trinidadian lady, like, who's back there? And I'm like, it's me. And they're like, looking at me up and down like, no, it ain't.
You're not Trini.
Yeah. So I have to almost like prove myself a little bit harder that my mother-in-law is like the best Trinidadian cook that I know. And she lives with me and I get to have every part of her. And she is an amazing teacher, but most importantly, her hands are blessed. She's been cooking since the age of 7. Her mother passed away from an early age. So she really had to be in the streets fending for herself. And cooking was a big part of it, right? They had to cook and sell food on the streets on the side of the road. And yeah, so I guess to answer your question, it's been an amazing journey. I have nothing bad to say about my husband. He is a pain in the butt because he pushes me so much to be a better version of myself. But outside of that, like just beautiful to have someone that I can go on this journey with that has my back and ensuring that like, you know, we're building for our family and our children and leaving legacy behind and doing things with intention. When I look at things like this butterfly represents my mother. My mother died from cancer. She's a big reason as to why I opened up the restaurant and why I'm plant-based. And like he did that as a surprise for me with the artist to show that my mom is present. And if you read the antenna, it spells out Elsa Strong. So Elsa is my mother's name and Elsa Strong is what we said while she was battling cancer. So very attention to detail and it's, I love him. I wouldn't trade him for anything in the world.
Yeah, smart. I definitely heard you mention the tough love aspect, right? So focusing on the positive, what would you say has been the positive impact on tough love in your career thus far?
You know, I always tell even my team that my way of loving them is tough love. And I tell my kids that too. And what I mean by that is real love doesn't let you be a mediocre version of yourself. Real love is saying, yo, you are messing up right now. Get your ish together. You're better than this. That's real love. And I tell my staff all the time, I love all of you, but make no mistake, I will never allow you to be on this team being a mediocre version of yourself. Because if I know there's better in there and you're showing up with less, then I'm doing you a disservice.
Yep.
And that's just facts. And so my husband holds me to that standard and I try to hold others to that standard because we all need a little push in life.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sure. And speaking of that Caribbean influence, I was able to dive into the menu a little bit, right? So with that, you said that the Trinidadian influence inspired dishes like the cuckoo?
Oh yeah, 100%. I went to Trinidad. Like, I mean, I go to Trinidad a lot, but I went to 2 years ago specifically, and we went to my husband's aunt's house. So she made cuckoo, and I was like, I'm like, I like this texture, but I saw it in my head being more. So I was like, what's the recipe? And I'm talking to his aunt about it, and she's telling me how she makes it and this and that. I was like, okay. So when I came back from Trinidad, I took her recipe, and I was literally on the phone with her. I was like, on Simala, like, all right, this is what it looks like. She's like, yeah. And I made it my own, right? Like, I just wanted to add more umph to it. A lot of Trinidadians use okra. I don't like okra so much. So, like, I did it in my version. But it really still speaks to Trinidadian flavors. So I'm using pimento peppers, coconut milk. I also added a little bit of Italian flair because we have polenta, which is yellow cornmeal, which is exactly what cuckoo is. So I really had to like educate myself on what cuckoo was. And even today at the restaurant, people are like, what's that? And we're like, oh, it's yellow cornmeal. You know, it's polenta technically, but in Trinidad, you call it cuckoo because of the way it's cooked.
Putting the people on, you say, love the knowledge. So definitely had a lot of plantain-based dishes as well. I tried the sweet plantain boat, enjoyed that, and also tried the oxtail with the plantain on the side. So mofonguitos, right? I also have had the pleasure of eating mofonguitos from an establishment named Antojitos, right? And that was the first time I ever had mofonguitos. Wow. It was a Dominican eatery. And then this is now the second time I've even seen it on the menu, right? So is mofonguitos a Dominican staple or like?
Totally. I think any Dominican establishment that you go into, for the most part, has mofonguitos.
Really?
Yeah.
I typically see mofongo, but I feel like I haven't.
Mofongo is actually, it's still very Dominican, but more Puerto Rican. Like when you go to PR, mofongo is everywhere. When you go to DR, you're not going to find mofongo at every spot. But I still did grow up like with La Casa de Mofongo, close by. But I would say mofonguitos are definitely a Dominican thing. And it's normally stuffed with like pollo guisado, maybe like a guac topping with some cheese. I've done it several ways. Today on our menu, it's made with a charred artichoke, an avocado mousse with shadow beni to kind of try in Trinidadian flavors, a seaweed caviar, and a little bit of just like raw red onion. I really wanted it to be plant forward.
Okay. So what would you say has been your most favorite dish to come up with on the menu?
That's hard. That's really hard for me. I find I have so much joy in everything that I make, and I can walk you through a story on every item that is currently on the menu.
Yeah, sure. The intention is very thorough.
If I had to the sweet plantain bowl has a soft spot for me because when I started doing pop-ups, I was always selling more street food. So I was doing empanadas, curry chicken wontons, right? More like handheld quick bites. The bowl was the first dish that I had to think like, oh, this is a main. Like I have to think about the presentation, think about what plating it's gonna go in. And it was the first dish that challenged me to think outside of just like holding an empanada and biting it. And and it's evolved so much over the years. I can show you pictures of when I first started. You would die. I cringe when I see them. But it's also a reminder that you must start somewhere.
Gotta start somewhere, and now you are how many years in?
We've been open for 2 years and like 5 months.
Nice.
And I've been in the business since I started pop-ups for 4.5 years.
Nice. So what would you tell yourself when you first opened this business 2.5 years ago?
Stay the course, it'll be worth it. Yeah, and I did. But I think like there were moments where things became really hard, and having a 9-to-5 and working for someone else sounded really, really good. And it still does sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. But then there's that reminder that, wow, like I often say this, I can't wait to be older and think back to this point in my life and say, damn, I did that. Like, I did that. And, it was a fun and hard time, but I can say that I did. And just that is going to bring me so much joy. And just for my kids to like, be like, my parents opened up their own business and they knew nothing about it and they figured it out somehow.
Yeah. So what do you think you'll have to do in order to still be thriving 5 years from now?
I think what's important is having consistency in the food and the experience. And always thinking about innovative ways to stay the course. The thing is that in New York City, having great food isn't enough anymore. That's just what it is. Like, you're a food guy, and like, you have to now do collaborations and partnerships, and you have to stay relevant. And so for me, I'm constantly looking in how to like make our space be a hub for the community. That's important for me. And I think the more I do that, the more people are always going to keep us in mind for events or whatever the case may be. But keeping the culture alive is a big thing for me. And, we started doing like more than dinner Thursdays every Thursday for the first 2 months of the year. And they were a hit. Now I'm going to focus more on brunch and having more of a brunch vibe. But I do a lot of other events with like more niche audiences. And so more of that.
Nice. So what would you say is the difference between almost perfect and perfect?
Well, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So it depends on the person's lens. But for me, if you strive for perfection and you don't attain it, if you fall somewhere in between, then at least it's close enough. I think at the end of the day, what's important is that you put your best foot forward. And I think what I've learned in my career in leadership roles is that your definition of working 150% is very different from mine. Your 150 could be my 30 or vice versa. But as a leader, how do I get you to think outside of that? So for me, it's all about finding people who care deeply, right? Have alignment with your vision, your mission, and your why. And then the rest is like, okay, let's attain perfection, right? This is the goal. This is Ham's culture. Let's attain it together. Yep. Systems. I always talk about systems because if I say to you, okay, this is what this dish, this is how it's made, that means nothing to you. But if I give you a printout of a recipe or a closing checklist of what it should look like, then there should never be a miss. It should always be the same across the board, no matter who's doing it. And that's how you get consistency.
2.5 years of going hard as a mother and several years to come. Okay.
Yes,
so
thank you.
It's been great talking to you. I would love for you to leave a question for the next restaurateur that we have on Tasty Talks.
Ooh, a question. I would love to know how you keep your team motivated so that then translates to the customer experience. I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges. How do you get people to see your vision? So I would love to know, how do you get your staff to do what you do?
Very important, because they are a representation of you when they're on that floor.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the first episode of Tasty Talks. Make sure you're going to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the post notification bells every time we drop a new damn video. Make sure you follow Taylor, Elajas, on all socials. Make sure you follow EBNTV on all socials. Tell them where they can follow you, man.
You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. I don't know what else is out there. LinkedIn. Am I old for that? Healthy as a Motha is our handle across all platforms, and or Ham, HAAM, Caribbean Plain Cuisine.
Indeed. We getting down and dirty. Ask what that you say.